right. We are, whoa, way too bright. I feel like that's pretty good. That's pretty good right there. All right. We are live. New camera. As you can see, I look a lot better, I feel like. We have someone on. I don't know who, but new camera. Going to be reviewing the SHL playoffs. We haven't had a chance to do anything from the second round on. So we didn't get to do a recap. We did a preview. I got chirped a little bit for it, so we're gonna do one right now. So I am doing these live just because it's easier to post them than to wait for them to post. So going to be breaking down all of Sunday's games, and there were some good ones. Again, we talked about in the weeknight a lot of the championship games. 1-2 goal games, most of the playoffs even 1-2 goal games. So much was the same for the Sunday league. So the Sunday league, it's not that it gets overlooked. It's just, it's a different, there's 40 less teams in it. 20 less teams in it. So it's just, there's so much more going on with the, the weeknight league, that sometimes with the Monday morning, it's tough to do stuff on Monday morning after that Sunday league, because that is a booze league for sure. That being said, and with the Sunday league in general, a lot of the guys really don't pay attention to it. They just show up on Sunday and play hockey. So we are going to be doing a full breakdown for our playoffs. So started out the day with just a wild game. So our first game of the day was our Bronze Early B Championship, showcased the Mighty Ducks and the Thundercats. So let's kind of just take these nice and slow since there's only 5 games on that day. So the Mighty Ducks, Captain Bill Gimley, didn't show up to one single game all year. Not one single game. So it's an interesting team right off the bat. They have a bunch of guys who I gave them a few guys. They had a few guys that they, existing on that team before. So the team's been a little bit of a mess over the past couple seasons, but they came together. And when they have their full team, they're actually really good. And they made it to the championship against the team, the Thundercats, who the Thundercats seem to be in a lot of the championships. They're a team that always is in the middle of the pack between like the top half and the bottom half. They did have a little bit of a tougher schedule. I thought I talked to them at the beginning of the year, and I said to them when I filled in once, I said, you guys are pretty much a silver team minus like a few pieces. So I'm going to put you against some silver teams. And unfortunately, against those games, they had a couple actually close ones and then a couple where they got blown out. So it just didn't wind up working out for them. But so kind of like put them in the bottom half, but the game wound up being really good. 7-6 game. The Mighty Ducks were pushing to tie it up and pulled their goalie off the draw. Dave Jerry won a draw back so hard it went in his own net. Then, so now it's 8, I think it was 8-5 or 7-5 at that point. And like 13 seconds left, the Mighty Ducks score. So had it not gone all the way back, or had they kept the goalie in the net, they probably had a chance to tie that game up. Unfortunately, didn't. Thundercats came out on top with that championship game. So Thundercats with another championship under their belt. Captain Bill Lambert, that guy always seems to find the net no matter how bad his skating is. He always finds the back of the net. This guy, you would look at him in a game and be like, yeah, he's a copper player at best, but like the dude's got a bunch of goals on the season and always scores in the championship game. Kudos to him too. Like he picked up a couple good players like Flanagan, picked up Dave Hermes, the McGrath brothers. So they actually have a really solid team. Brian Kolbs was a good pickup as well. Steve Kolbs in net. So I know a couple of his guys are getting older, like Brown. They're getting a little bit older. Was Wise Browski. I don't even know how to say his last name, but Johnny, they're all getting a little older. So he filled in the rest of it with some youth, and it's paid off because he's won a few championships now. Next game, we had another awesome game. This one actually went into OT. So we had the Gabagoles and we had Brickhouse Tigers. So the Gabagoles, let's start there. They had one of the probably first teams at NERC. I mean, there was always the Deuces, but the Gabagoles were probably the first team at NERC to really like have a crazy social media presence. And like they were doing videos every week. That stuff has stopped. But once that stuff stopped, their team has gotten pretty damn good. So shout out to Joe Schweizer, who signed on. Keith Crozier picked up Summer Shoe, I guess is how you say it. Picked up Summer Shoe. I think he got the goalie Eric Nowitzki. I think he got his brother on the team as well. And they picked up Brian Kenny. So like they actually wound up filling it in with a few good players because they lost guys like Pettit, but they still have Steve Pettit. They lost John Pettit. They lost Ryan Dash, but they filled it right back in. I think Dash should be back next season anyway. But Gabagool's had an unreal year. Like, really, they were really good all year. Their team that I think when they played their silver game, they only lost by a goal as well, or 2 goals. So they played really good hockey the entire season, deserved to be in the championship game. They played Brickhouse Tiger, who's another team. When they have all their guys, they're the top 2 team up at NERC on the Sunday Bronze early. When they don't have their entire team, who knows what you're getting with them sometimes. So they did wind up finding themselves in the championship game because playoffs came around. A bunch of the guys started showing up on time, probably a little bit more sober as well. And they found their way in the championship game. This one went into overtime. They scored with I think it was 2 seconds left. I'll look it up right now, but really good back and forth game. Brickhouse was pushing for a while to tie the game, and then they scored with it was 2 seconds left in the game. And then right into overtime, Tim Brown comes down with a pass from Denny Coffin, and he buries that one past Eric. And heartbreaker for the Gobblegools looking at the game. So started out with the Jeff Moore goal, then the Gobblegools went up 3-1 after that. It wasn't until basically 5 minutes into the third, Jeff Moore finally got one back for them. Then it wasn't until 1 second left that they tied it up. So Gobblegools had a 2-goal lead, worst lead at NERC, and wound up giving it up. And Tim Brown, I said it from the side. I said if Brickhouse wants to win the game, get Tim Brown the puck, because they were pushing hard, and it wound up coming out the victor in that one. This next one, Sunday Silver. I'll say this right off the bat. The Sunday Silver, I was kind of saying some guys don't care. The Sunday Silver teams do. Some of the Sunday teams or whatever, they're a little bit older. They're not into the social media and all this stuff. They just want to show up, play, get a good exercise, hang out with their friends. The Sunday Silver League's the complete opposite. These are some of the most intense games at NERC. And it goes with the Stickheads as well, even though this championship only showcased 2 teams, obviously. 2 teams that I played for with the Degenerates and the Hounds. I was originally playing with the Degenerates during the week, goaltending for them. Once Devo kind of came back from injury, Devo took his spot back. I pretty much only got the spot because Deves was hurt. And then that kind of moved me into the Hounds thing because I still wanted to play goalie, and they wanted a new goalie. And it made the league better. So I said, hey, listen, if I play goalie, I definitely want to go up in the silver, because I think you guys are capable with a good goalie. So they went to the silver. Both teams have won championships pretty recently. This Sunday Silver division is probably the one division at NERC. And I have to go back and look at everything, but this is probably the one division at NERC where it seems like the championship often rotates. I mean, last summer, the summer was a little bit different. We had the Creek Monsters that were added in. They were a little bit stacked of a team, but they won the championship there. The season before that, it was the Steelhounds. That was in the spring. That was the last time I played with them. Had the baby right then, and things just got a little tough. Season before that, it was Degenerates. And then let's just go back to the fall season before that. We didn't really have a Sunday Silver, but we had the Steelhounds win on one side of things against the Stickheads. And I think Degenerates, they had lost in a semifinal against Crickwater, and that was the year that the Gobblegools, I think, wound up playing the Crickwater team. But this Sunday Silver has had a ton of different winners. The only team who hasn't won yet is the Stickheads. So it's kind of bounced back between 3 teams. Now we're finally adding a 4th team in. So we'll talk about that in a later episode. But going back to this championship game, another 1-goal game. It's crazy. It's just awesome watching these championships and these playoffs and how good they actually are. So it started out, Paul Sotstrom sinks the first goal. His son, Oliver, made his appearance at the NERC. Looked like it was good luck for Paul. Kenny Weber came back firing, really 6 minutes after. So it was kind of like dead for a while. The game was a lot of possession, a lot of good roller being silver division tends to happen. Then we had Tyler Kilgallen score and Zach Burns score. So now you got the Hounds up 3-1, and then DHC gets one back. So now 3-2 in the first period. So I forget who it was standing next to me. Like, this is a goddamn shootout. 5 goals in the first period. I mean, it was on pace for 15 goals for the entire game, and didn't quite get there, but got pretty close, honestly. So second period, Hounds go up, then DHC responds right back. Then the Hounds score right away after DHC scores. And here's the good thing. Here's the funny thing is that Pat Viola scored with 8 minutes into the period. The next 2 goals weren't until the last minute of play. So pretty cool that it was like, again, just an absolute battle, puck possession battle. Love seeing the good roller on the rink on Sundays, especially because Sunday Silver is probably equivalent to like a weeknight Bronze A. But there's still tons of good roller up there. And then, especially in the championship games, when there's so much at stake, you really don't want to make a mistake. Then Mike Miller got a goal. He was wearing Wolf's jersey, so it says Justin Wolf because Armando wasn't paying attention. But Mike Miller gets a goal. JD gets another one. And then Tim Detra ices the cake. And Degenerates take it 6-5. Now, even after Detra scored, the Hounds pulled their goalie and had a few chances and a few looks, just weren't able to bury it. But it was like intense moments. You could just tell it was one of those things where every time a goal is pulled and you're down 1 goal and you have a chance to tie it in the championship game. But there was a couple good looks. I think Pat had a good look backdoor. Weber had a good look backdoor. Spence had a good look. But DHC basically clogged the zone, and Lenny played unreal in the third period. He made like 3 2-on-1 stops to keep the boys in it. DHC was, I think had 7 players, so they were getting a little bit gassed. But Lenny held it down in the third period after having kind of a shaky first. He held it down in the third, and it looks like they're going to be rocking with Lenny for the next season as well, since he won them a championship, which means Justin Brennan's available, and he's probably going to be playing on my Silver team. So got to talk to him about that. But so after the Silver game, we had our Bronze Late division start. So Bronze Late B started out our night with the Meal Boosters taking on the Bumblehawks. Meal Boosters are kind of a mix of like the old Roccos and a couple of Beer Barons guys as well. So Mike Machicana captained that team and kind of brought them together and gave them some jerseys because I wanted them to, look the part and, feel good while they're playing and look good while they're playing. So they wound up having a pretty good team. I talked about a couple of the guys on the team before just being like really good. Like Joe Deary, that kid is awesome. They have Greg Pardo is a really solid player. Mike Machicana had himself a really good championship game that we'll get into, and wound up getting MVP. He had a goal and an assist, but he also put together the whole team, managed the whole team, so kind of earned himself the MVP in that one. This was an 8-6 final over the Bumblehawks. The Bumblehawks, captained by Jared Brookstein, old lazy eights, but added in a few pieces. Probably one of the most interesting people in the entire league. John Myers is on his team. This guy is an absolute I can't even explain. He's a cartoon character. That's how Jared explains it. This dude is a cartoon character. So Bumblehawks, it was, again, another one of those games where Bumblehawks open it up. Meal Boosters fire back with a couple. Bumblehawks, Meal Boosters. It goes back and forth and kind of the seesaw match the entire game. And I was watching it actually because at one point I thought that the Meal Boosters were going to kind of run away with it because it got to like 8-4. But then, that was 7 minutes left. You got a goal at 3 minutes left and a goal at 1. And you're like, oh, they're pushing. And I think they pulled the goalie. Didn't really get any good looks, unfortunately, at the net after they pulled the goalie. And the Meal Boosters kind of just like dominated, blocking shots, winning battles in the corner, just getting the puck up. I feel like every time the shot went to the net and it wasn't on net, it basically wound up being a Meal Boosters puck win, and they were dumping it and just killing the time off the clock. So unfortunately, with that last 3 minutes, the Bumblehawks just couldn't find a way to get there. But shout out to the Meal Boosters, kind of technically an expansion team, coming in and winning the Sunday Bronze Late B, which leaves us with our last game of the night, the Sunday Bronze Late A, which it's an interesting one because I think most teams in the Bronze Late would have expected the Hippos to be in this championship game, but Brian Fisher was not at the semifinal game. Not saying that's the only reason they didn't win. But Brian Fisher is a guy who puts up a lot of points. And in that championship game, they just were giving up a lot and not getting a lot back. Or in that semifinal game, they were giving up a lot but not getting a lot back. So the gang winds up beating the Hippos as probably the underdog, most people would say, and finding their way in to the championship game against the Gladiators. Now, the Gladiators have Jaden Golden. He is a guy that when that team goes down, he turns it up a little bit. He actually, for being a young kid, plays the right way in that division, where when I was young, I'd be a dickhead and trying to score and dangle everybody every shift. He does a little bit of that when the team's down, and he knows the time and place to do it. So good on him. He's a sick player. Like, Jaden's nasty, and he's kind of their main goal scorer on that team. So Gladiators wind up sneaking out the victory or losing this one to the gang 8-6. The gang has Sean Lloyd on the other side. So Sean Lloyd, and I was looking forward to actually Sean taking on Jaden, like a big guy versus a little guy, but Lloyd carries this team. And it's just when he wants to turn it on too, he's another one who plays the right way in this division. He turns it on. I thought the Gladiators would probably had the upper hand had Jaden been there, just because they have a little more depth than I would say the gang did. And the gang was A, missing a few players, and B, I think a bunch of them were like on a trip and coming back from a trip that day. So they're probably a little bit hung titty. They're missing their goaltenders. So they had E-Bug and their original goaltender, Alex, hop in net. He winds up getting them the championship win, and it was an 8-6 win. Again, kind of the same thing where the gang scored with basically 1 second left on the clock on an empty net. But it was 7-6 essentially with literally one shot at the empty net. Jake Park wound up burying one. Jake and Nick Park, both really good players, brothers. Both have a pretty good set of hands on them. I wound up giving the MVP to James Solges. I called him Sugals in line. Soldiers only had 1 point in the game, but this dude still rocks a Jaffa helmet, and I just think that's awesome. And he's just like the happiest dude on planet Earth. Like, dude's never had a bad day. He shows up to every game. Like, he's just a man. So I just had a feeling. I was like, you know what? This dude deserves it. And Mike, he had got an MVP, I think, twice now. So they're a 3-time champion. They won twice in the Bronze Late B, and now this is their first one in the A. So can't really say they're, sandbagging, because they've worked their way up from the B division to the A, and they've won championships at every level. So they're a dynasty right now. They're the only team that has won 3 in a row. I think our divisions are so competitive that it's really hard to even go back to back, let alone 3 in a row. So shout out to the gang with a 3 in a row victory in the Sunday League. Looks like they're back next season. Kind of just a preview of next season as well. With the Sunday League, we're back to 20 teams, which is unbelievable to see. We have a new team coming in the Croydon Creek Monsters. They're not going to be the silver team that they were that summer. They're actually going to showcase Snack Bar Steve playing on that team in the Sunday Bronze early. So Snack Bar Steve is getting his crack at the Sunday League. And it looks like everyone else is pretty much back at that point. So it looks like we're going to wind up having another 8 in the Bronze early, 8 in the Bronze late, and then the silver is the one that is going to change up a little bit. So we're going to wind up having the Stickheads, the Degenerates, the Hounds, and then I'm going to bring back a team, and we're just going to be called the Liberty, since I have tons of Liberty jerseys. And that Liberty team is basically going to be a bunch of guys from the Bronze early that are like the better players on their team. I'm going to hop on the team for the season to kind of just get them started, and hopefully they can stick together and stay as a silver team. But I'm going to hop in with them and kind of just, kind of steer the ship the right way so it goes good for a season. But yeah, we're going to add another Sunday Silver team in there. So how Sunday Silver is going to work is, instead of a 10-game season, we're going to do 9, and your 10th game is going to be the start of a best-of-3 playoff. So just because when you only have 4 teams, there's no quarterfinals. So basically we're just adding that quarterfinal is a best-of-3. And the 10th game it's kind of like a mix of that. So Sunday Silver going to be back. So you can play everybody 3 times. Going to be pretty awesome. The other 2 divisions, we will continue to be doing the split division. So 4 and 4. I think 1, it works out good because it keeps parity. 2, it prevents teams from playing 2 games in 1 week. So you'll be able to play your semifinal and then your championship the next week. And I think that Sunday is so awesome when it's 5 games right in a row of championships, hour time slots, so you get proper amount of time to celebrate. So that's how the Sunday League is going to go for next season too. 20 teams, could go to 22 if I wanted to. We'll see. I have a couple of teams lingering out there. The Bullies, Crickwater, a couple of those teams might come back. They'd be added more into that bronze early. So bronze early could be one of those that goes to 10 teams. And in that case, then we would do a 5-5 split. So we'll see if those guys actually come back. But if they don't, we will just continue with our 20 teams. I think it goes really nice because nobody gets stuck with that 9 o'clock game now. So that's pretty much it for playoff recap. A quick little preview of the 2024-25 winter season, which starts on December 8th.